Hello, YouTube. So Joe Flacco has been named the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. So what does this ultimately mean for the rest of the quarterbacks on the roster? For a Kenny Pickett, Shedeur Sanders, Dillon Gabriel, and now Tyler Huntley. So I've been saying throughout the entire preseason that I felt like Joe Flacco was going to be named the starter just because he has the most experience in the offense, the most experience in the division, and he could ultimately be the quarterback that could keep the Browns in every single game and potentially make a playoff run. I feel like the team is good enough around Flacco to where they could be in the playoffs if they had good quarterback play. So in 2023, Joe Flacco did that. He played 6 games. He was able to get him into the playoffs. He actually was brought in from the couch. He wasn't playing for anybody at the time. So it just went to show you just how well he could do in this offense with very little time. So now with an entire offseason, what could he do when he's truly prepared for the season? So I feel like for the Browns, they had such a good 2023 season where their defense was one of the best defenses in the league. And then their 2024 season was actually pretty bad. They had a lot of injuries. So I'm hoping that this year their team can come back to full form as the 2023 season was, and hopefully have the same success, but even better now that they have their starting quarterback for an entire season. So for Joe Flacco, he's 41 years old. He's played amazingly well, but I don't truly believe that he'll be able to play an entire season, especially in the division that he's in. Their first 6 games, I think they played is mostly playoff teams from last year. So that's going to be a really hard first quarter and a half of the season. So I have to see how well he does. But ultimately, I don't feel like I would bet on him staying healthy the entire season. I do think he's going to win just enough. The team has enough talent to win just enough to where they can be close to a playoff spot. But if something did happen, he would have to have a good backup. And I was thinking that was going to be Kenny Pickett. But with him getting hurt early on in the preseason, right before all the preseason games, I feel like Tyler Huntley has kind of earned that designation. He's been able to play really well. He was brought in off the couch theoretically as well. And he was with the team last year, but he ultimately ended up getting cut before the season began. So he has some experience as well, and he's played very, very well. So I do feel comfortable with him being, if it does come out that he is the second string quarterback, that would be a very good decision. He'd be another quarterback that knows the team pretty well, knows the division, and can hopefully keep the team at float. Because mainly in the 2024 season, it was a quarterback carousel. Quarterbacks were coming in and out. There was no real consistency. And I feel like that's what the Cleveland Browns have been missing, is the consistency at quarterback, where their quarterbacks aren't getting hurt. Deshaun Watson, for example. So what does that mean for the rookies? So for Shedeur Sanders, I still feel like he has a lot of potential, and that if something does happen this season to where they're not as good as what they expected to be and are starting to lose, I can see them switching gears instead of trying to make the playoffs, trying to develop one of their young quarterbacks. And I do think that would be Shedeur Sanders. I do feel like he would be the one that they would ultimately develop if they had no other choice, if they weren't in the playoff hunt, if they started off like 1-6 or something like that. I feel like they would try to switch gears and develop one of their young quarterbacks, just so that way they know what they have. But right now, they have a pretty good team. And for them to hit the brakes and go back into a rebuild or try to develop a quarterback, that really is a last case scenario for the Browns. And then for Dillon Gabriel, I do feel like he would be the 4th string quarterback, ultimately because of him being a little smaller, him getting hurt pretty early on in the preseason as well. It's kind of hard when you've had so many quarterbacks play due to injury to fully trust a quarterback that has been injured. Of course, Shedeur Sanders has been injured as well. But it's really hard when these are rookie quarterbacks. They probably brought them both in, not only to compete, but to create depth at the quarterback position. So it's one of those things where you wanted to have some youth at the position to plug and play if you really needed to, and to be able to have some extra bodies in there in just in case something did happen, so you could hopefully still make the playoffs. So I feel like by having the most playoff experience on the bench, that's really good for Flacco and for potentially Tyler Huntley. If he does make it as a second string quarterback, that would be amazing. But I feel like Dillon Gabriel is going to ultimately be the 4th string quarterback, and he's going to be just riding the bench and hopefully have a chance to develop. And then maybe in the future he'll actually compete with Shedeur Sanders for the starting position. I do feel like Kenny Pickett is probably going to be traded. I feel like he's missed so much of the offseason. I do feel like they'll try to trade him. He'll want to be traded so he can have the potential of starting for another team this year just because I feel like him sitting out all last year with the Eagles being second string, I feel like he really does want the opportunity to still prove he can be a star in the league. So I do feel like they'll probably end up trading him, and they will still keep 4 quarterbacks like they said, but I think that they're going to go with Tyler Huntley instead of Kenny Pickett. And then they'll just wait to see how the season progresses before they turn the reins over to a rookie quarterback and start the process of introducing that rookie quarterback and seeing if they can't play for next year. So I do feel like it was the right decision. I do want to eventually see what Joe Flacco can do with this offense and if he can replicate what he did in 2023. So it'll be still an exciting year, and if anything does happen, I do feel like it would be either Kenny Pickett or a Tyler Huntley. That would be the second string quarterback to hopefully still keep them in the playoff hunt. But as soon as the playoffs are no longer in reach, I do see them going into a developmental stage and having just a rookie quarterback play. And so we'll just see how the season progresses. So thank you so much for catching me on this video, and I will catch you on the next one.